everyone, and welcome to Almost Cancelled. I am Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about The Expanse, Season 3, Episodes 12 and 13. They're called Congregation and Abaddon's Gate. Full spoilers for the episodes. It is the season finale, the two-part, well, I don't know if it's necessarily a two-parter, but the final two episodes of the season. Yeah. And we're going to talk about them. Apologies, this is a day late. We normally have these reviews up. Things got pushed. So apologies for that. But we're here now, and we're going to dig into these. First thing I'm going to say is I'm so glad we're getting more.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. You know, when they said, okay, season 3, if this is the end, it does have an ending that kind of works. And I agree with the sentiment in that as an open ending. You know, because
it kind of works, yeah.
It feels like the conclusion of the proto-molecule story, right? Where now it's done its purpose. Now, obviously, we're going to have things spinning out of that. But
yeah, like there's a little bit of narration at the end of the episode.
Yeah,
that does feel like that could be an epilogue narration, right?
Yeah,
if it wanted to be.
Yeah,
if it had to be more rather than wanted to.
Honestly, only the final shot is the only thing that I think, had this been the end, I'd have been, no wait, that's setting up something we need to see.
Yeah, they probably would have just cut that shot though, right?
They may have done, they may not have, but that was the only thing, because everything else was happening. It kind of felt like, okay, this, you know, as I understand it, the books kind of function as like the first year of a trilogy, and then you have another trilogy after that, and we go from there. But so it definitely feels like a culmination. And can I just say how weird it is on this show to have a finale feel like a finale?
Yeah, it is strange, isn't it? None of the others did. Not really.
I'm so used to the finales being in the middle of a season, but here we are. It lined up.
We got two this year.
Yeah, we got a finale in the finale, and that was a nice feeling. Not really, it's mattered in the long run, but it was nice all the same. So yeah, we'll dig in. Try and focus on the first episode first, and see how we go from here. So Holden is on the Behemoth. That's where the Martians have taken him. Yes. Lots of people are on the Behemoth. Clarissa's locked up, or at least Amos has got her locked up in the med bay, and Anna's there. And actually, I think in terms of just tackling the plot lines, I wanted to tackle Anna and Amos first, because I was not expecting the gold that this pairing was going to give me until it started actually playing out in front of me.
Yeah, I'm the same. I was like, I had no expectations for it, and then it's like, oh, we're doing this. This is fun.
Because like, I don't think, because I think, back when like Bobby hadn't met the team, it was like, oh, I can't wait till Bobby meets, so and so on the Rassi, and I can't wait till certain characters interact. I never really thought of this with Anna per se, where I was excited about her interacting with anyone in particular.
Like I said last week, I think part of it is the fact that we didn't expect her to interact for significantly longer.
Yeah, that's true.
So we weren't building that yet. We were like, oh, we'll worry about that next season. But
right from the first scene with they're in it, and he wants to kill Clarissa, and she's like, no, we're not going to kill her. And he's like, oh, what's your there? I'll inject her with the med bay, and it'll be painless. Like, no, we're not going to kill her. It's not about her. It's about us. And the dead eyes stare that he's just like,
yeah, he can't comprehend.
And that is a recurring theme with their scenes as it goes on, and it's just gold. It's And what I love about it is that ultimately over their scenes, they kind of like there is this middle ground almost where she tells them at one point when they're on the Behemoth and they're in the help attending to the sick, and she's used to be a nurse, so she's going around trying to help as best she can, and she describes herself as being someone who's she sees something that needs to be done, so she'll do it.
Yeah.
And he actually can relate to that. It's just for him, what needs to be done usually is shooting people or violence,
snapping a neck.
Yes, So there's this odd overlap between them, despite the fact that they're so opposed in ideology in every other way.
But they're both very driven.
But what I love about it is, like, because Anna's whole thing, and ultimately what it builds to in this double episode, is that she's the one to try and talk sense into people. She's the one who just try and build bridges, try and communicate. And I love the idea that we build to that, and we think she has a chance because it seems like she's actually breaking through to Amos, the toughest subject she could ever encounter. And it does actually seem that in some small way she has actually reached them.
Well, that's it. We know that she was a speechwriter, and she was very persuasive in her speeches.
Yeah, and not in a manipulative way where she was trying to.
No, but in the point that any politician's speech should be persuading the audience of their viewpoint. That's kind of the point.
Yeah. I think yeah. Persuasion is the right word, but I think there's just it's worth clarifying that it's an innocent persuasion where you're just trying to make them see your point of view as opposed to manipulate into
Yeah.
the point of view. Because I think there's a clear difference. I think Anna, as much as she's very persuasive and she's very good at what she does, it's always about appealing to people. It's always about appealing to their better sensibilities. And the scenes with Amos were cracking me up repeatedly. You know, the one where she's like with the person who's died, and he's like, "You know he's dead, right?"
She's like, yeah, I know.
Because I guess when he's like, "Oh, do you want to get some food at the canteen?" He's like, "No, I was going to stay." He's like, "You know he's dead, right?" I'll bring you some food.
And she's like, yeah, I know. He goes, and you're still treating him?
And she's like, no, I'm not doing
he
that.
thinks she's lost it.
Yeah. It's just it's great stuff because I think when it all, you know, obviously when the plan eventually comes, this is the weird thing about having 2 episodes, is I kind of want to just keep going with their plot even though it's crossing over
Yeah,
into...
well, I mean, this happens whenever we get a double episode. We end up the second to last episode ends up getting shafted a bit because by its nature we have the more interesting things usually in the last one.
See, I don't think this is going to get shafted here. I didn't really want to move on to the second episode until we'd done with the first episode, but it might be neater to actually just stay with the same plot line.
It might, to a point, yeah.
To a point. Because I want to talk about when they're doing the mission, they've got their plan to try and, like, you know, stop everything. And of course this involves, you know, to get Monica, who's survived. In fact, I love that when Alex and Amos see her on the screen, he's like, "See, she survived. Alex, tell me not to put them in the airlock." Come on,
Finger
now.
Eyes didn't know, did he?
He didn't quite survive, no. But when they're doing that, and again, we have the kind of almost the final big scene with Anna and Amos, where he's like, you know, he's standing guard because they're expecting resistance, you know, once things get going. And she's like, you know, just opening up to Amos about her concerns about, oh, you know, I never got a chance to really speak to my family about what I did, and if I die out here, they're never really going to know. And, you know, and he's like, well, that's what dying is. You have unfinished business.
Yeah.
He has this almost really stark point of view, which, in Amos's own way, it actually sounds like good advice. It sounds like, no, that's what dying is. It's fine.
Yeah, it's like it's everyone's in the same boat.
That said, I probably didn't laugh quite as much at anything than when she's like, "Oh, will you have any regrets?" So, "Oh, I won't get to shoot that prick Ashford." It's like, "Oh, why do you hate him so much?" Well, I've never met him. That pause after that broke me.
Yeah, it was pretty good. I don't think it was my funniest moment, but
okay,
we'll
I've got an
get to
idea of
that
what it might be, but we'll see when we get to another plotline. So, so, you know, but then she's like, because obviously he says that if anyone comes here, they're going to try and kill us, so I'm going to put them down, and you have to accept. And she does accept that because that's the situation they're in. But it ends with this moment, you know, it's this, you know, because she says later on, it's not about, because back in the first scene with them, it's not about her. It's not about showing her mercy. It's about us. Which she later questions herself when she goes back to speak to Clarissa, and she questions, like, was that actually out of mercy, or was that this selfish thing where I just don't want to be the person who does that? I don't want to see myself as someone who's vengeful or a killer or willing to let that happen. But this scene with Amos at the end, not only does she understand that this has to happen, my favourite thing at the end here was where she you know, goes away and he grabs her by the arm, and you almost think he's finally, like, had it with her, you know, her speeches, you know, because at one point just before she put her hand, you know, it's like, don't let hate's a burden, don't you don't have to carry hate, and he grabs her arm, and you almost think, oh, maybe he's finally had enough of this and he's going to, like, tell her off, and he just looks her dead in the eye, same blank stare. I'm not going to let anyone hurt you. And Amos is such a I think if you go back to the start of season 1, I don't think I would ever have predicted how fascinating a character Amos is.
No, to the point there where, you know, she says, "Oh, don't carry hate." It's about, I don't know how much hate he does carry. He never seems that passionate in hating someone. He's very loyal, and, you know, and he will, if someone's Holden or Naomi's enemy, they'll become his enemy.
Yeah.
But not through a personal reason of his own.
Yes, I mean, it's almost, again, comparing him to Anna, it feels like they both have this purpose, because he always needs a purpose, he always needs to, like, something that he needs to do, right? He's always for whatever the current cause is.
In the way that she is devoted to, you know, God, he kind of applies that to Naomi and Holden.
Well, I wasn't going to go there, because I was saying, even without God, she is like that, but she just does it with her religion behind it. Like her religion is kind of there to like help sort of like guide what her beliefs are and like what she thinks is right. He almost is just as devout, just without anything to actually believe in. Sure, he goes along with whole, but I don't necessarily see them as his god.
No, I just mean this as what you said there. She used the religion to guide as an aim, and I think that's it. Amos, he has no direction of his own, so he goes right. Okay, these people that I respect, what's their aim, and he goes along and just supports that.
And I think it's important to know that he wasn't for Holden at first. Like it took time. That was growth over the first couple seasons to where he actually saw Holden as a captain. To and it's just it's back at the start of this arc when Holden was like, "Hey, we have to go into the ring," and Alex was like, "What are you talking about?" But Amos is like, "No, do what the cap says." Like he trusts the captain, and I think that's an interesting journey that he's been on. But he is so fascinating. In the ways like, because it's almost like in this moment he has decided that okay, Anna's also worth following. I'm going to protect you, and I don't know if Amos quite understands it, but he does like to reassure people. He was the same with Prax.
Yeah.
It was. Amos is fascinating. But he's also really funny at times with how he bounces off.
I think Amos is hands down the most interesting character on the show.
Yeah. And I kept mentioning the Amos like stare when Anna would say something, but it was equally funny when Anna would do the same stare back at him when he would say something that'd be like, what?
Yeah.
It's good stuff. I get the feeling that she's never quite met someone like Amos.
Most people haven't.
Yeah. So sticking with Anna actually, because Anna's got obviously she gives a big speech over the comms to convince everyone, and that was the other moment I liked actually, is like Amos like grabs it because Holden says, "Hey, we need to convince everyone, so this is your job. We're going to take care of the behemoth. You have to get the message out. You're going to have to convince everyone of something they don't want to do." And Amos immediately goes, "Hey, that's Anna's thing. I'll go over to Anna." And he's like, "Hey, we need to go." And he's like, "No, what I'm doing here is important." "No, it's not. Yeah, this is important. If you don't come with me and convince a lot of people to do something they don't want to do, we're all going to die." And then Anna's face is just like, "Okay."
I love how it just cuts after that as well.
Yeah.
Like, that's it.
Yeah, no, you get the point. She's convinced. You don't have to see her like say she's convinced. It's
Yeah.
It's fine. So, and obviously they have to convince Monica as well after this, who's not wanting to do anything with Amos until Alex explains the dire straits that they're in. And she's like, "Yeah, if you just led with what the actual problem was, I might
have helped out in the first place."
in. Yeah. Instead, Amos is like, "Come and do this thing for us. We need your help." Because he's Amos.
Just so direct, and he has no tact.
No, he has no people skills, but that's kind of why I love him.
Yeah.
But no, we should mention that she goes to see Clarissa, because Clarissa's on the base at first, and then they get the behemoth, and they put her in the brig. Of course, amusingly, next to Holden.
Yeah,
just
the
down the
grin
hall.
on her face when Holden introduces himself.
Yeah, that was the sod's luck grin. That was the F my life.
Yeah. Now I'm next to him.
Yeah, and I love that he doesn't know who she is. He's just like, "Hey, I'm Holden. What are you in for?"
Yeah. He's being all friendly, and she's like, "God damn it! I could have killed him like 10 minutes ago."
But of course, Anna comes down there later to speak to her, and this is like, because I think we'll neatly transition from this into Clarissa's story for the 2 episodes. But she comes down here to speak to her, and admits that, "Hey, I've been trying to like question like why you are the way you are, like because she's like, you're this vengeful, you're so hateful, and you need to do this." And because it gets to the point where she kind of jokes, "Oh, all I can think about is maybe she's got a brain tumor," because she couldn't accept that she is just the way she is. She couldn't accept, because the way she puts it is that, like, you meant to do all these awful things. You try to kill Holden, you blew up a ship to do it, but the thing that's eating to me, the thing that I can't get past, is that you let someone die. It wasn't someone you intended to kill, but Tilly got hurt just kind of by accident, and you didn't help her. You let her die, and it's almost like she can almost respect that she had like a reason and a mission to go after the one she did. But the idea,
but it's the collateral damage.
Yeah. But the idea that she didn't care for someone who was just like hurt in passing is what really bothers her, and how awful that is. And it's funny because I was just going through the episode again before we talked, because I watched these yesterday. I wanted to refresh my memory, and I think what really grabbed me watching all the Calissa scenes again, knowing where it goes, is just how nicely it builds with her reactions to everything in each scene. Because it's when she gets to the, have you got a tumour line, there's a tear that runs down her face as she says no. It's like she's finally starting to understand. It's like Anna's breaking through to her again.
I think it is worth remembering here. She's always, struggled with what she's been doing as much as she's been focused on.
Oh yeah,
Holden.
that first engineer she had to kill. Yeah.
Yeah, she was broken after that. We saw her shaking. She was completely out of it. That was presumably the first time she'd killed someone,
Yeah.
and she was clearly not prepared.
Yeah, and I think she got deeper and deeper to the point where she was going to kill Tilly. Like maybe she's going further down the rabbit hole. That's that thing where once you've killed one, the next one's a bit easier, and then so on and so on. And it's almost like she'd sort of lost that humanity a little bit, and her aggressive need to get to Holden. And this was the first time she's really stopped and really sort of took it in. So I thought this was a really smart scene. And of course later on, towards the end of the episode, she hears Naomi and Holden in the cell together, and it's like the first time she gets to just hear Holden talk to someone. And Holden, of course, is talking about how he's trying to help and he doesn't understand why, and he sounds really hurt that he can't help. And she's actually getting to hear who Holden is. And then on top of that, later on she sees the extreme the stuff that Ashford does, and like what the talking points are on the bridge. And it's like she's slowly building. She has that scene with Ashford where he takes off her inhibitor. And obviously here it could kind of go either way. It's like, oh, she got her inhibitor off. Is she going to do something?
But it's going
drastic?
somewhere.
Yeah. But she does. But the one thing that made me think it wasn't going in a bad direction is when she said to Ashford, "Hey, do you believe that one act of kindness, one moment of thing can redeem you for all the bad things you've done?" And Ashford, being the character he is, he's like, "Yeah, I'd like to think."
I hope so, because I just did something nice after a lot of shit.
Pretty much. And I'm like, okay, so is she coming around here? And obviously she plays a big part at the end where she's actually the final person that's able to turn off the behemoth so that the plan works. And we'll talk about the plan in a little bit. But what I love about that moment is we're having this standoff with Holden, Naomi, and Ashford, and Ashford's like, just kill them, right? We're at that point now, and it cuts to Clarissa, and you just hear the click in her mouth. And I think at that point she's on Team Holden, right? You know she's going to help, but it's just what that click is, and it's because it's the first time she's done it where you're kind of rooting for it, where you're like, oh yeah,
Finally,
soup up, do it.
I really want to know what this stuff is, though, because we didn't really get much about it. I'm sure book readers could probably fill us in on this one.
What I think is smart about this show sometimes is how just the way it's reacted to actually tells me enough, and I don't really necessarily need more.
I don't need to know. This is more just I'm curious, because I don't need any more information than what it presented.
Because there's a lot of information you can glean from how it's reacted to in this episode. Because Anna, when she's got her at the start in the med bay, she's like, "Oh, we've put an inhibitor on you so you can't chemically induce yourself." So there's an understanding of what's happening. They understand that she's taking something, and maybe even understand what it is.
Yeah, it's seemingly some sort of steroid.
Yeah.
And whatever, the chemical agent, the chemical inhibitor that they use neuters, it counteracts whatever she's injecting herself with, essentially. The
fact that they knew how to counteract it tells me, oh, it's nothing super weird or whatever. It's maybe something you have to get in the black market, but it's not something that's unknown.
Yeah, it's something they're familiar with, at least at a fundamental level.
Yeah, so yeah, I like that. I like that context. It's kind of like how all the Bellator little signs and phrases they have, where you just pick them up because they're just using them. They don't stop and explain them, and that's okay. It's in use. It's in context.
Yeah.
So that's good stuff. So no, I like Clarissa because every time you see her and she sees different things. She sees the message on the TV, and I love the idea that it started because obviously Anna had met her before everything went down on the UN ship, and I love the idea that even Clarissa was a result of Anna speaking sense to. Even she was it was Anna convinced all the ships, but she also convinced her one-on-one, and it was almost like by getting through to her first was the sign that she was going to succeed, that she was going to be able to do it for everyone. So yeah, in this episode she gets through to Clarissa, who was hell-bent on revenge until Holden became more humanized to her, and she sort of maybe understood that he did what he did for good reasons.
Had to sit next to him in a cell.
Yes. She got through to Amos, who might be the most challenging subject to get breakthrough ever,
Yeah,
and then all the ships. Anna had a pretty good day
it is.
for
I think, like
spreading
you
the
say,
word.
Amos was at a point where he was, willing to back her up by the end of the episode. And given they just met, and we saw how long it took for him to come around to Holden.
Yeah,
It's pretty impressive.
so really good stuff. All right, so jumping over. Who do we go to next? I guess we'll do a little bit of drummer, just her building her mech legs,
Those are cool. I want some of them.
or exomech legs, or whatever the correct term would be. But they were cool, because obviously the she wants to go back to the behemoth because they realise that Holden's probably on there, and Alex is like, "Hey, you're not going alone. We're all going together. Crew's sticking. I just got my family back. Crew's sticking together. That's not what we're doing." So they go together, and I love Naomi like stepping into Diogo and calling him a little shit, like because he was like, acting all big. He was like, "Oh, I'm in charge here. Hand over your weapons." And obviously Amos is like, "Nah, that ain't happening." And Naomi convinces him, but he's like, "Listen to me, you little shit," and she just points right at him like, "I want to speak to drummer right now." That was cracking me up.
I did laugh a bit when Amos just hands over the weapons. Diogo's like, "Right, you're under arrest. Let's go." And Amos like, "Can I get that weapon back?"
Yeah, yeah, and obviously she goes to see Ashford, and it's funny because again, showing that Diogo's just kind of jumping the gun, because when she gets to Ashford, he's just kind of like, "Oh well, Diogo rightly predicted that if he came back, I'd want to speak to you," but it wasn't necessarily I told him to arrest you. Like that was Diogo, jumping to that himself because he wanted to. In fact, when she's walking on the bridge, you see like all the death stares. Like she's definitely seen as a traitor by a lot of people because they were all giving her these looks.
I mean, she did desert. That's undeniable. As far as they're concerned, she their engineer abandoned them. Right as they go into this unknown place.
Yeah, and Ash was like, "Hey, maybe you can see Holden later, but hey, how about first you fix the ship because we might all die." So she's like, "Okay, fine." And it implies it spends hours before she goes to see Drummer, and she helps Drummer finish her legs, and they go down to Holden, Drummer and Naomi. In fact, it was the funniest moment you were referring to when it's the start of the second episode, where Holden they leave him alone in the cell to try and talk to Miller.
Right.
And we don't get to see Miller this time, which actually works for us because we've seen him so often that we don't question this.
Don't need to see him.
Yeah, but it's great because this is the first time that he's been watched on camera. Well, I mean, obviously we saw him on camera on the Rassi at one point, but live, like they're watching him live on the camera. Yeah. Was it because obviously at first he's just trying to bring him out. He's like, "Hey, Miller, where the hell are you? We need help." Blah blah blah. But it's when he turns like, "Oh, it's about damn time, Miller." Was the biggest laugh for you when you see Drummer's reaction to this, and she just stares over at Naomi? He's like,
it wasn't.
Wasn't okay. All right.
Again,
okay.
Another great moment.
Another great moment. No, I'll get there. We'll get there. But that did crack me up as well. And of course, her the scene with her and Holden was good. But I think the interesting thing about that scene is it was nice to see them reunited. It was nice to see them start formulating plans. But I think my favourite thing was the Clarissa element of it, where she's getting to hear how he actually is. That was the heart in there. In fact, we should probably rewind to the start of Holden stuff with Ashford when he's kind of interrogated. And can I say, I love how casual they use the sets on this show. I love that Ashford just kind of leans over and like pulls down the seat next to him and just sits on it. I mean, obviously it might have been in the script that he pulls down that seat. So when they built the set, like, oh, we have to make sure that the seat's all pulled. At least that one does.
Yeah.
But it makes it feel more lived in. It makes it feel more real, as opposed to like things they never touch. But he pulls it down and he's sitting with them. And so I actually theorized last week that the reason why the civilization that built the ring was dead is that something did maybe kill them. There was something. And this conversation does seem to confirm that in some capacity. Although there's more mystery to it than I was kind of thinking before.
Yeah, see, this conversation maybe confirms it, but then something at the end suggests maybe he's jumping the gun.
He could be jumping the gun because you could read the ending, and we'll talk about this more when we get there. As it's just like they were the station was assessing whether or not our solar system or humanity was a threat, and then it wasn't, so it didn't kill us. But when I looked at this scene again afterwards, he does actually say, there's something killed him, and it was burning solar systems as a way to cauterize the wound to try and stop the spread of this thing. So when I went back to it again, I went back. Okay, no, it does clearly sound like he's implying there's something external that's
there is
killing.
definitely an implication of that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
what that is, I mean, is open to
I mean, that
debate.
is a question at the end as well. What could kill something? This powerful.
Yeah, so I think we'll save that speculation. We'll get to that at the
Yeah,
end
yeah.
when we're talking about how it is, because that's big stuff. But obviously, Ashford is like, oh, he's crazy, he's lost it. But he does use that because eventually, we have the scientist on the UN ship who's like, oh, let's try. Your laser can still fire, your communications laser. Let's try and hit that through the ring. Doesn't work. And then he has the plans like, oh, maybe we could use that or we could set off an explosion, right? It won't actually put any of us in danger or the station because of the speed limit, but it might disrupt whatever's holding them there. Now, I thought this was a bad idea from the get-go.
See, I thought that part was a bit, but the logic of it what, it probably isn't going to accomplish anything, but it gives us data, and we can work with that.
Sure.
I think that's a smart thing. Maybe nuclear explosion is maybe not the best way to get data.
Everything before now, anytime anything like any type of weapon, like the grenade before, it saw it as a threat. So my immediate thought was, it's going to see this as a threat, even if it doesn't hurt it. It's going to see it as a threat.
I think the difference is the grenade was aimed at it as far as it was concerned.
Okay.
Whereas this, it never sounded like they were aiming it directly at it and going for it. They were just out of range, so it wouldn't affect them, and then explode.
I mean, it's all moot because it was exactly what I thought it was going to be. It does see it as a threat, and it starts spinning up, if you will. And they kind of just, oh, this is going to, because you asked this about Ashford's like, oh, Holden told me it would burn entire solar systems, and it seems like it's spinning up to do this, and it's going to, everyone on the other side of the ring, our solar system, they're all going to die. And so the first episode ends, Congregation ends with Ashford like, oh, let's have this plan. We can't fire missiles, but the laser can fire. Photons can still fire the regular speed.
Let's close this ring, essentially.
Yeah, because we can't destroy the station, but if we destroy the ring, because as he says, even if we all die in here or we all live, other ships are going to come through to see what happened, because that's just our nature. We're curious.
Yeah.
And everyone who comes through is probably going to end up, in up shit creek, just like us. So that's how we end the first episode there. Fine way to end the episode. Fine way to build a cliffhanger. And then we come back, and obviously, very quickly, Holden tries to speak to Miller. He's like, okay, I know how to stop this. And it's like, okay, it sees us as a threat. We have to power down all the reactors and all the ships to prove that we are not a threat. Because blowing up that skiff sort of said to them, hey, every ship here is a bomb.
Will blow up, yeah.
Yeah. And okay, so that's what we have to do. And I actually liked how they made this clear, that why this is going to be a tough sell. Alex's sentence made it perfectly clear. You're going to ask a bunch of scared people to turn off the lights, and I'm like, okay, that was a perfect way to just convey why this is going to be tough.
Yeah, Alex occasionally has a way with words, doesn't he?
He does, yeah. He's kind of this conduit for the audience where he can kind of like turn the. Not so much jargon, because there's not really jargon in this scene, but it could have been jargon. It could have been a long explanation, but it was a really nice, succinct way of just explaining to the audience, okay, here's what's going to be difficult about this.
He often simplifies things, doesn't he?
Yeah. And of course, at this point, Drummer's along for the ride with Holden and Naomi because she cares about Naomi. So she's kind of there. As is the guard, actually. I actually kind of like that scene where she's like, I need your gun, right? Are you going to be a pro? I was like, oh, I'm with you, boss. Like, I was with you on Eros. I was, even he's kind of a belter now. Like,
Yeah.
So okay, here's your gun back. I kind of like that, even though I was like, oh, he's a red shirt. He's totally coming down.
I did laugh as well when at one point Drummer was like, they're running out of things, and they're like, hey, don't leave me behind. I'm not staying here on my own.
Mm.
And then like 2 minutes later, it's like, right, go on without me. Leave me here.
Yeah, but it was like a purpose though. She made a choice. But
just the irony of flipping between them so quick.
Yeah. So they go to the reactor. They basically go there to manually like shut it off, and there's a couple of great scenes here because obviously they have she's on the comms with Ashford at one point near the start of the episode, and they're basically being nice and playing civil, and it's like, oh, we should probably speak about this in person. So I agree, and she's like, okay, he's sending people, we have to go now. It's like they're both reading between the lines. They know exactly the intent of the other person, and they get there, and I love the moment actually when they're in the elevator, and the gravity isn't there, and Drummer starts to float, and there's almost this release of pain on her face because this is just something that if you put someone who's paralyzed or something like that in 0G, it was therapeutic, right?
Yeah.
And it was just a fun little moment to see her like sort of feel the relief of that before they get into the reactor room. And so again, there's a scene with the comms where Ashford's there and they're kind of debating, and this is around the same time where the video message starts playing to everyone, and it makes everyone start to question, hey, should we be listening to this? Should we turn this off? I mean, Ashford's second in command up on the bridge even questions it, and Ashford shoots him, after he keeps talking about it for like more than 2 minutes.
And I love this death. Again, I know this is just the way it plays with the gravity or lack of. His mag boots are still clearly locked in the ground, but his body is just floating backwards. Yeah. It's started to fall, but then floated up.
Yeah, and then obviously the blood's kind of,
Yeah, but it's the way his feet are still locked on the floor that gives it the really cool effect.
What I actually loved about this scene was when he looks back over at the Martian who's there, the high-ranking Martian who's been on the ship giving Draper orders, and there's a moment of like hesitation, like what is she going to do here? Because as soon as he shot him, I was like, oh, this is his pirate belter kind of.
Yeah, and he outright goes, right, anyone else got a problem? Anyone else gonna...
Yeah, it's like up until now, he's been trying to be the professional military man. He's been trying to do this by the book. And this is the moment where it's like, okay, well, this is going to be resistance, I'm just putting them down. And there's a moment where, I think you can even see it in her face, the Martian's thinking, do I dispute what he just did? Because this is uncivil to her, I would think.
She definitely considers it.
Yeah. And then she's like, you know what, I don't want shot. We'll send our Marines to go deal with these people playing the message, right? Which obviously we get excited here because, like, oh, wait a minute, that's going to be, Draper, running into Amos and Alex. Which actually, was that the funniest moment where...
It was,
yeah. Okay, when this is like, Alex? Draper? Cut.
and it's just like, oh, this is going to be much easier than we thought. You can see them both thinking it, going, oh, okay then.
Yeah. And of course, the two Martians, like, Marines who are with her, have been causing a lot of trouble. They're going to cause problems in a minute. But, so let's just talk about this. Alex goes out, Draper goes out. Do you know what I loved about this scene, though, when the Martians intervene and it turns into a bit of a firefight? And obviously, Draper immediately starts attacking them. She's like, no, what are you doing stepping in? This was nice and civil and peaceful. Yeah. When she's fighting the other female Martian, that fight felt so brutal to me. Like, there was something about the hits. It's like, you could tell they're both trained fighters. Like, the way they were punching each other in the face just had oomph to it. It felt violent.
Luckily they didn't have their armor there.
Yeah. Oh, if they had their armor, it'd be a much different situation. Of course, Diogo and his crew stole the armor to go in after Holden and Naomi.
I love that shot of them running on the circle.
Yeah, the walkway, yeah.
Yeah. But the shot of the way it tracks them going around the bend.
Oh sure, yeah. So the walkway inside the drum, yeah.
Yeah, that was a great shot.
Yeah, it was a great shot, and you realise it's Diogo, and you're like, oh, you little shit. Like that is the perfect phrase from Naomi. Got it. Little shit is perfect. Because we even mentioned the fact that at one point there's some medical supplies going missing, and Ashfield just grabs him by the neck, like, who did I put in charge of guarding the medical supplies? Me, boss, man.
Is anything missing?
I don't know.
Well, do you think you should know?
Yeah, just so again, it's impressive that this show has those little moments of humour there that really crack me up.
I think it's a testament that season final, and it feels like one, and we've just done a handful of very funny moments.
Yes, absolutely. So obviously the Draper standoff, and like again, I love the idea that as soon as it's over, like Amos says, are we is there how many more? And Draper's the one who sort of like goes, we're clear, and she picks up a gun, and Amos doesn't even try to shoot, because I was almost thinking maybe Amos will take a shot at her because she's picked up a gun, like maybe he doesn't trust her yet, given that they're on two sides of this conflict. But it's like you can just tell that she's like, okay, right, now I'm in this, it's fine, and she's just sort of sauntering over, and of course she's been shot, like in the scuffle, the other Martian shot her. We didn't like see for sure if it hit her at the time, but obviously afterwards we see her.
Yeah, because she just keeps on fighting through it.
Because she's a badass, that's why.
Yeah, damn right she is.
Yeah. So that's all going on, whilst the Diogo and his cronies in the Martian suits are going after our main team. Drummer gets punched in the face as well, and they end up going up the airlock, and they're in their suits and they're going up the shaft from the elevator. And Diogo and his crew are like coming up behind them because they've got thrusters. They've got better suits than they do, obviously, and they're coming up after them. And I'm not gonna lie, I genuinely thought Drummer might be dying here because she makes the sacrifice. She's like, "Hey, you go on, Holden. You make this worth something," and so on. And she's like, "Give me the grenades," and she's like, standing offside in the shaft. She's got the grenades ready, primed, and the music's swelling up. And I thought, oh, this is she's had so much growth this last half of the season. This could be a good death for her. This could be her big moment. So it was actually a nice, genuine, like pleasant surprise when that elevator came.
Yeah, I think it was
down.
about halfway through this episode I started getting worried that we were losing someone. Like, I just had a feeling that someone could go here. End of season 3 feels like a time where it's possible.
Yeah, and obviously people who have read the books are like, ha 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 ha, Drummer's like in 10 more books or whatever, but like
that would be really impressive. I don't think there's even that many books.
There isn't that many books, but the point being is, like, obviously we're watching the show having not read the books, so this is really exciting to us because I really feel like she could be dying here. So it was such a relief when that elevator came down. It really had me in the drama of it, and she even it's, the line's almost meta where they call it, and Naomi's like, "Hey, Drummer, tell me I didn't hit you as well." She's like, "No, I'm alive." Like, even that line, I felt okay. That was telling the audience, no, she survived. It's fine. And obviously we see she survived. I just mean there's like a little meta joke to it where it's like, no, you thought I was going to die, but I'm alive. It's fine.
Yeah, definitely.
And of course that's when they get up to the top of the shaft. They're out near the bridge, and that's where the standoff comes, and Clarissa intervening and making sure they turn off as everyone else. The scientist in the UN ship feels responsible, and he's thinking, you know what? I don't know if this is going to work, but what if it does? Is it really going to cause any harm to just turn everything off
and try it? Yeah,
and try it. And you can see a lot of other people feel that same way, and all the ships turned off. You see them all turning off, all the lights going off around the ships.
I assume the drum keeps spinning regardless. Like it's on a different system.
Possibly. I never actually noticed if it stopped spinning.
I was watching as it went out, and because you saw the outer shot of the behemoth, and it was still spinning. But I wasn't sure if it was slowing down or not, because obviously they need their gravity still to keep everyone alive.
Oh, absolutely. But is it a big deal if it goes off for a few minutes, though? If that's all it's going to take?
That's a fair question. Yeah, I don't know. But as I said, I don't know how, what the drum's on. Like if it's on a physical system like that, where it's a reactor powered thing.
Yeah, or if it just has its own power source inside the ship.
Yeah. If it's once it starts spinning, it's good. It will just keep going.
Oh, in fact, it might actually because. Yeah, it might, because if it's just... Well, no, I don't know.
This is it, I'm not entirely sure.
Someone with a better understanding of physics can help us here. Because I'm thinking, obviously, once you propel something in space, it'll just keep going.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure... Because it's on an axis inside the ship, I don't know if it keeps doing that.
No, that's the thing. But I'm thinking, like a Newton's cradle, where the ball and it just keeps going for ages, right? Because of the conservation of energy.
Yeah.
So it's like, could it be on a system like that as a backup in case power? So you don't need to have power on it at all times.
Yeah,
I feel that would be the smarter thing to do when you're designing it, but I don't know if that was feasible.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I never even thought about it, to be honest. I assumed it would turn off, but that'd be okay because it'd be a few minutes, and they'll survive for a few minutes.
We're worried about all those hundreds of people in there.
So obviously, Holden has a moment where he's like the station connects to him again, and he's standing on this beach, and he's looking up at the sky, and the lights all turn on, and this entire last 5 minutes where the music's playing and we've got this speech, there's such a satisfying kind of happy ending feeling to this. Where okay, there's maybe more bad stuff coming in the future, as Holden points out. This is going to be a bloody gold rush with what's just happened, but there is this happy feeling, and we'll talk about some of the intricacies. But the big thing, and not super unpredictable. I think we've been saying this is a bridge that leads to other places.
Yeah, I think the word they use is road.
Yes. So all of a sudden, the stations decide we're not a threat. More rings start appearing inside we'll call it the bubble, and it's like, oh, these are doors to other solar systems, other galaxies, whatever. These are pathways to other places. And I'm like, oh shit! And you can just see, like, like Ashford reacting to it, looking at the screen, everyone reacting to it. Obviously, later on, once word's gotten back and they've come out the ring, because this is releases the speed limit and lets them all out and stuff. And we see that during the montage. We, Avasa Rally, who we've not seen since, like, the video footage from the first part of this arc,
Yeah.
is just staring at it. Because obviously, I feel like she's going to be a lot more important when we're talking about what do we do with all this new
Yeah, of course.
space to go to. Like, I feel that'll be where she comes back in, but she's like just looking at the map in front of her of all these rings and being like, "Oh shit,
Yeah.
this is like no one's prepared to deal with this. This is like heavy new territory."
Oh yeah.
So unprecedented.
It is.
It's super exciting. Obviously, the title of the show is The Expanse. This is kind of what we're all building to.
We've been talking about this whole season, right?
I love that it built to this. I love that, and I love the idea that, again, like as Holden points out, it didn't come here to kill anyone. People died in the collateral damage, but it didn't care. It was just trying to complete what it was doing.
Yeah.
And now that it's done so, it's not a threat anymore. As long as we're not a threat to it.
But things on the other side could be a threat.
Things on the other side could be a threat. He does reiterate that on the other side, whoever built this ring is dead. And what I thought was interesting is when he's in his head again at the end and he's talking to Miller. And I love that we have this kind of weird thing where he's in his head, but it's actually science. Like, it's a connection to the station. It's not just like him having like some phantom visions. He's like, what could have killed that civilization? And Miller says, "Oh, I'd love to know. That's what I would love to find out."
It's really funny because when Holden got that vision a couple episodes ago, I said it felt pretty Mass Effect-y.
Yes.
This feels full Mass Effect. The rings. It's like the mass relays. This technology from these ancient races that have been left behind, that connect all these places of space, and something wiped them out, and there's this mystery. It feels really Mass Effect-y.
Yes, although I would, and I love the Mass Effect trilogy. I do.
Oh, absolutely.
Not play them draw with it, but I love the trilogy. I do think that this is better told than certainly Mass Effect 1. It's better told than that. I mean, it probably won't go into the same territory as what 2 and 3 did anyway. But because all the stuff we're talking about comparing here is all from 1. It's all the vision and stuff. That's all from 1.
Yeah.
I feel like this is a much better, more refined, grounded version.
I mean,
of
that's the benefit of just being a story and not being a game as well, right?
Oh, of course. So we have all these doorways, and I don't know. I didn't know if I got the implication that everything behind all the doors was dead, or
I don't think so. They mentioned there was, I think, 1,300 habitable worlds. But I mean, I don't know if they've all been. That's part of the mystery. Okay, have they all been wiped out? Because every time a ring is connected, this thing has wiped it out.
I might compare this a little bit to 2001, where the whole thing in 2001 is you have to get to the point where humanity's proved it's ready to take the next step into evolution, right? This is kind of like that as well, where they had to come out here and prove that they weren't a threat, and now, okay, the door's open now. Like, you've been granted access to this network.
Yeah, no. It's funny, that's part of Mass Effect as well, isn't it? They have to reach the mass relays, and once the civilization does that, they're ready to join.
Yeah. I don't think it's big thematically in Mass Effect though. That's almost just like a minor, like.
I think it's bigger in like the third one.
Sure, but it's not as thematically as whereas 2001's all about that. It's all building up to that.
That's the whole point of that movie.
Yeah, and because this has spent time building up to it, it feels maybe a bit more akin to that in some ways. So it's super exciting. I don't know. Like, do they pick one like starting season 4? They say, okay, we'll try that one first.
Well, this is the thing. I don't think anyone's picking that. Everyone's going through and going.
Oh, sure, yeah.
I can get rich through that one. I can find something in that one. So everyone's going through all of them at the same time.
Yeah, and I want to point out something else that said in the narration at the end is Miller, Holden's talking. It's like, hey Miller, you've not told me something. There's parts you're leaving out. Clearly, this thing has a plan. And as humanity, are we part of that plan? And it's making me think if there is something wiping out solar systems, and that almost they check to see if this was a threat, like this solar system was a threat, like going back to the cauterization of wounds, it's making sure this place is not already infected with whatever it is, right? Yeah. And I'm wondering, when he says, are we part of that plan, does this thing want help to take care of this?
Is it recruiting an army?
Yeah. Is it recruiting other systems that can maybe fight back? And let's just say that they are all dead behind all the other doors. Like, are we the last hope? Are we the last chance?
How do we possibly beat that?
Yeah. What about human beings makes us wacky enough that we can pull it off?
Yeah, exactly. We're definitely not qualified.
Not qualified. But we have this weird thing when the chips are down, we pull things out at the last second. At least when we're writing TV and movie scripts, anyway.
And usually Germany in football, except the other day. Just had to get one in. It's been a whole week.
I do not approve of any World Cup references on any shows on this channel.
Well, I'm feeling smug. I had to come out somewhere.
So, big stuff. And it was a great visual as well. All the rings opening up. It was like really exciting. See when the first one popped open, I was like, oh, and it just started more and more. I was like, oh Jesus Christ, this is big.
What's going on here.
It's so good. Other things that should talk about here, obviously, like Naomi's fixing the ship. Draper appears to be on Team Rassi permanently now.
She's in the seat next to Alex, which excites me.
And I love the idea that, like, during this little thing with the other two, where she was constantly having to, like, deal with them second guessing her, and they weren't willing to, like, stop and listen to, like, the reason that she's basically, like, she was already kind of on the path, but she's realised that maybe she doesn't belong with them anymore. She doesn't belong on the Martian fleet. She belongs...
Well, I mean, she turned on 2 Martian Marines, isn't it? She's definitely a deserter now.
Oh, sure, yeah. But I mean, forgetting the logistics of her actually being labelled as a deserter, I just mean, like, she's been on quite a journey. When we met her at the start of Season 2, she was this devout Martian. Like, everything was, Earth is the enemy, blah, blah, blah. And over the course of meeting Avasarala, meeting the Rassi crew, it's like, no, there's a purpose here. And these two giant, like, organisations, these two giant government bodies aren't necessarily the ones to handle this. They're not really listening to the reason in the same way. And she's maybe almost become sort of aligned with this cause of, like, we can do something better here. Or maybe you could look at it from the other side of saying she's just feeling alienated from her own place. Like, she's learned and grown too much that she's outgrowing the Martian core.
And she's joining the collection of misfits that is the Rassi crew.
And the collection of misfits is always the best team to have on a show of any kind.
It is, yeah.
See, when
it always works, doesn't it?
When it's all the abled people, that's when you get your CSI bollocks and your medical dramas. But no, you want your team of misfits. You want your Firefly crew or your Scooby Gang from the hit television show Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
I know. As soon as we started talking about this, I knew where you were going. I knew it. So this is because I got the World Cup reference, isn't it? You're like, you got to have one of your own.
I'll be doubling down. Don't you worry. So that was, I was also really excited. Everything I saw during this little montage at the end when Holden was narrating and the music was sort of kind of swelling up, I was like, oh man, this feels great. Like, Amos and Naomi are like back together. Draper's on the Rassi. Avasarala's coming back into play. And I'm excited because it's opening all these doors. Now we have to talk about the final moment as well, of course. Because the final shot we leave on is the Rassi's going through the ring, and we actually see the ripple going through the ship, right? Yeah. And it's as it gets past...
It's an unusual effect. It's kind of like a water effect.
It does. It looks like a water effect. And as it gets past Holden's face, something comes at his face through the ripple. And given what Miller just said, I think I need a ride. I'm thinking the sentience that is pretending to be Miller, or is using Miller as an image, is actually just bonded with Holden and will be with him now.
Yeah.
That'd be my guess.
I think so.
Yeah, that's my guess based on what we saw.
Yeah, that seems reasonable to me.
So, the Expanse finale. Good. What will be best? There was 2 whole episodes. The only problem I have with having double episodes is I always worry that we've missed stuff because it's more stuff to digest and get into and whatever.
And again, we've got the huge ending stuff that we want to just dive right into.
Exactly. And that's the thing. It gave us the big ending where it relates advancing the mythology of the show. It's opening all these doors, literally opening these doors. In this case. But that's
it's rare that's the case that you get to say that, isn't it?
It is, yeah. But we had all the action. We had the drama of like thinking drummer mate die. I thought the character progression was fantastic for multiple characters. I mean, Holden and Naomi probably the least so because they're pretty much already were set in their path, right? They already kind of had their journeys this season. They've kind of came to their conclusions and they're going to work together. And they're kind of the level-headed ones here. But Amos's character advancement, Anna's character advancement, even Draper, Drummer, even Ashford kind of like, because that's the thing at the end when Drummer comes in with to Ashford with
Comes in with the
the drink.
whiskey. Yeah.
I love the idea that okay, we were against each other, but now that it's over, you've realised that maybe you were wrong for a start. But the idea that she's not leaving the belt over this, she's not leaving the OPA, she's still part of this system, and she's going to. And I wonder if, like, when we see them next time, she will be in charge again, but he will respect her more because of what they've just went through.
Yeah, quite possibly.
If he's not in prison for shooting the other guy, I mean, I don't think so.
I
But
feel like I can get away with that in the belt.
yeah, probably. But I feel like he might respect her much more than he did before, and there'll be more of a mutual understanding. Because obviously
Yeah.
this season it was all this tension and like.
Yeah, no, definitely. It might be a case of she almost lets him be a captain because she lets him stay the captain and she takes, like the second in command. Now they swap places in the sense that he was doing what he thought he had to, right? He thought he was saving, the whole solar system.
Yeah, yeah. If anything, he was just like. He was almost like, oh no, this is a noble cause to go out on, and he was so committed to that idea that he went. And yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe Drummer will be the second command, but they'll have an
But he'll
understanding
listen to her a bit more.
that she can challenge him. Like like when he is going off the deep end, she is there to put him back in line.
Yeah, but like I say, he made that call, but it wasn't necessarily. It turned out to be the wrong choice. But
Yeah.
you can understand why he was doing. He
Oh yeah.
genuinely thought he was saving the humanity.
Honestly, up until he shoots the other guy, like he's completely like sympathetic and understandable in everything he's doing. That's the point where he crosses the line and he's enforcing his command through violence, was where it kind of flips and it's like, okay, I still understand why you're doing what you're doing, but you're crossing a line here and being someone who I can kind of root for in an even way, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's the thing though. But at the same time, it's like he's doing it just because he is so strong in his belief that he is saving everyone. He is not willing to take the risk of letting everyone die, right? That he in his mind, I think he's like, I'm killing this one man here to save everyone.
Oh, sure, but I don't think it justifies it in the sense of his character and like this is not how you handle this situation. Even if he's like debating you and what you're doing, and I think it's really fascinating to me that it kind of mirrors the end of the last arc where we're on the UN ship and we had the same sort of when Sutter got shot. Because it was a very similar like moment to that, and I think it's saying no, he has a darker side, and he's trying to do the best he can, but he's reverting into his old ways in this moment, and just ruling with an iron fist rather than actually. Because throughout the episode, there's that moment where it's like, oh, we need more blood. He's like, okay, everyone mandatory, you have to go give blood, and he goes to do it as well, and the guy's like, hey, you don't have to do it. It's like, hey, I bleed just as well as anyone. Like he's trying his best to be this fair captain. I think there's genuinely an attempt there to give up his old ways, but he reverts it, and I think he knows he reverted into it. There's a look in his face. He knows what he just did, and I think at the end when Drummer comes in, you see him in there. He's got so much doubt in his face, and I think they will be more of a bonded team come season 4
Definitely.
and whatever they're doing.
Absolutely, they will.
So honestly, name me a dull character. Out of the main characters that we actually have time, we spend time with and have arcs, name me a single dull character on this show. I know people have claimed Holden in the past, and maybe he is duller than a lot of the other ones, but I don't necessarily think he's dull either.
No, I think it depends what point of the story. Like, for this half of the season, Naomi has probably been the least interesting to me because she had her thing, right? With the going back to the OPA and then back to the Rusty, but that was probably the least interesting. But maybe her and Alex probably. But
yeah, Alex is such a likable character though.
He
Alex is the heart of the show.
He's got the charm.
But I can't think of a single character that I don't like or I don't think is fascinating. That I don't, Clarissa, like when she first introduced, it was okay. Here's this, what she's doing, and it was fun for a plot reason. But like, cut to this last episode, I'm like, no, I'm actually into like her arc. I'm into her story and her changing her alignment and. Like we mentioned that Amos and Anna are, and Anna's a new character this season as well. I think it feels because it was the first arc she was introduced in. It feels like it's been 2 seasons, but it's not.
It does, yeah. It feels like we got so much out of this season, doesn't it?
It really does. This was an embarrassment of riches this season.
Yeah. Other shows, take note.
Netflix Marvel shows, take a few notes down.
Yeah, especially I think it's funny because especially on the Netflix Marvel shows in particular. we highlight Agents of Shield because it's another Marvel property,
Yeah, which does a
and
much better job with its
the way
pacing.
it handles its pacing in a season, and sure that has twice as many episodes, give or take,
And this even
but
does, yeah.
yeah, but and that does what, three stories maybe or two, middling story, but whatever. But the point is, whatever works for the amount of content you have.
Yes, yes.
This
Um,
nails.
no, this was fantastically paced this season.
It.
As weird as it is that it kind of like had a new season beginning in the middle.
I think the
They,
fact that we did the first book was what, a season and a half, then the second book was a full season's worth of episodes.
yeah, the first bit was about 15 episodes. The second was about about 13. Yeah,
Yeah, and
and
then
then this was
this
about
was
7.
right. So it's gotten to whatever the story is. However
Yeah.
long it needs, that's how long it gets. No more, no less.
Yeah, and as I understand it, some of the characters, like there was more characters in the book, but they already kind of like combined a few characters here or there, so they didn't have to introduce like
Yeah, yeah, and I think the reason
more.
that the
So.
first book was longer is they took plots from certain characters
Oh yeah, because
later.
Avasarala wasn't in the first book, if I understand it right.
Yeah, so they've kind of dragged that plot back and seeded it a bit.
Yeah,
Maybe better. Maybe it feels more even. I don't know. I haven't read the
yeah,
books.
I don't know.
I'll probably read the first three between this and season four, given that
Maybe yeah,
I feel like I'm pretty safe to now, and that feels like okay. If that's a trilogy, I feel like I can read those three and
yeah,
be
yeah, and maybe
satisfied.
wait until after like season 6, say if that's when book 6
Yeah, yeah.
ends.
Whenever
Yeah,
that ends up
and then you
being,
can read the
but
next batch.
I,
Yeah,
I
no, I
won't
get
go.
you.
I won't go past for the sake of it. So I'll go up to where I
Yeah,
am in the show, but
yeah.
that's about.
No, I mean, I think there's other shows where we may have already read the comic book, saying we'll just, oh no, we accept that this is from the viewpoint of people who have read the comic. But I think for this, because we started out as people who hadn't read the books, we should keep doing that
But
and
I
keep it
do want
going.
to read them, so I'm going to read the first three
Hell,
because
even I kind of want to read them, to be honest.
I already own the first. I got the first one on Kindle in a sale because Amazon.
I might, when the show's done, which may be years and years from now, but it might be like, oh, once the show's done, I'll I'll make the voyage into the books and
Yeah,
see what's different. But if this wasn't clear, this was a fantastic finale. Just in case that wasn't conveyed well enough. This was I think this is the best season of the show. I think the show has gotten better continuously, and for that reason, I am like so happy season 4 is already confirmed to be like saved and happening, and we're going further down this path. We get to continue this journey with these characters. It utilizes all of its characters so well. The pacing is excellent. The action's always exciting. Some of the best space battles maybe ever, because of the way it actually adheres to like the physics and stuff. And even as someone who doesn't understand all the physics, I'm not trained in it.
I think the beauty is it's something you were talking about earlier with the steroid for Clarissa.
Yeah.
Is you don't need to. You get
No,
everything
you
in
don't. Yeah.
context of, and even if you don't know exactly why they're doing something, you get okay. They know what they're doing, and that's
Exactly.
enough
Yeah.
to just take it in the
And
scene.
don't get me wrong, yeah, I know a bunch of people love to watch the show because they know all this stuff and they love to obsess over these details, and it's great that they can do that for folk too. But it works both ways, and that's what's excellent about it. It's one of those things where it's so good at it, you just trust that everything that it's doing is accurate.
Yeah,
And
it's all well and good being accurate and people who know what it's doing getting excited, but if it's not working for someone who doesn't know, then
yeah,
it's failed ultimately.
but again, it
But the
makes
fact
it
that it
work.
works for both is why it's so good.
Yeah, it's genius stuff. So season 3, excellent. Finale, excellent. Maybe one of the best episodes. I don't know. It's so hard. I'd have to go back and look at.
It's hard to separate the two episodes in my head though to say that
Yeah,
definitively.
it's also so hard with this show specifically. I feel like that it's so serialized, and it as we've said again, the fact that it doesn't necessarily end seasons at the end of or end books at the end of a season, then it'll do like these jumps in the middle of a season to a new book.
Yeah,
They've shown so much that they're not well, and the fact that it'll go 3 episodes building up, and then you'll have the big action episode. And I think those big action episodes are often ones where you more likely want to say those are the best ones because they are the ones where the big exciting stuff happens.
the more exciting ones, but they're
But-
not necessarily the best.
But the show's so serialized, and it sacrifices what you'd call a normal structure of a TV show so that the pacing works for the story it's telling, that it flows so much that it's very hard to pick out individual episodes and say
Yeah.
that one is a standout because they're
I agree.
so connected.
I think it's funny that it almost harms it when it comes to our end of year awards. So obviously this places
Yeah.
in best show, but when it comes to best episode, it kind of almost misses out because it's impossible to pick a episode that is actually better than the
An
rest.
episode.
No, I realized I was going to say something else
It
between.
sounded really stupid, so I'll make a
It
point to
did.
correct
I
it
was
before
going to
people do in
say
the
something
comments.
else in between a and episode, but then I changed my mind in the middle of the sentence.
You're
Clearly,
explaining it too much, though. You're digging. Back to your
yeah,
point.
yeah. No, no. But because of that, it suffers because how do I choose between this episode or
Yeah, and to make it clear, it only suffers in the conversation of us picking a best episode of the year. That is not suffering in any other capacity.
It's extra points in it for best show, for example,
Yeah.
because it's the culmination of everything together.
Yes, absolutely. So no. So obviously, let us know what you thought of the season in the comments. Well, obviously, Amazon will likely put out season 4 all at once, and it'll be like a one episode a day kind of thing when it hits.
Yeah, I'll be really intrigued to see if they do that because obviously they haven't put everything that they've had out that way. I would be inclined to think this fits more in their model of at once, but I wonder if they just go, you know what, this was weekly, maybe we'll keep it that way and see how it does for them.
I don't know. We'll see. We actually watched season 1 that way, so it would actually be a nice sort of almost, even though I love having it week to week and I love having it for like 3 months at a time, as opposed to just doing it all in a week or so, or 2 weeks probably if it's 13 episodes again. But it's. I'll be curious. But obviously we're excited. We'll see how that's going to map out. So yeah, by all means, let us know what you thought of the finale and the season as a whole in the comments. Like and subscribe and all that stuff. Get us on the Twitters at mailed_fuzz for channel updates. If you want to support the channel, head over to patreon.com/mailfuzztv. There's a bunch of bonuses over there, of course, if you want to sign up and support the channel and the show. But if you don't want to support us there, that's cool too. You can support us by liking, subscribe, and all that stuff I just said. It's worth going over to the Patreon just for all the links to all the various shows we do, all the various audio feeds we have, and so on and so on. Of course, check out any other shows that we cover. Obviously, we do other science fiction shows. Whether or not they're up to the standard of The Expanse is questionable. But there's always new ones starting. I know Netflix and Amazon have a lot in the works. So it's worth keeping an eye out. We do cover a lot of shows episode by episode. Even if they do go up all at once on Netflix or Amazon, we do them one by one. So that after each episode you can come and like see what we thought, and you get the experience of having the conversation between each episode, because you don't actually get that typically with everyone else.
The journey of discovery that we have week to week this year, the theorizing of where it's going to go, that still happens even for Netflix or Amazon shows, which is why it won't change for the next season of this.
It won't change for the next season of this. Now, of course, we may not get through them as quick, because obviously it takes us time to watch and then record, so we don't get through them as quickly as you might binge it, but do check out all the shows we've got coming up if you've been enjoying our Expanse discussions. We do a lot of shows. So yeah. Next big thing's probably Better Call Saul later in the year, starting in August, but that's not science fiction.
Very excited for it though.
We are very excited for that, but there's obviously more. Speaking of shows with great character work, we talked a lot about that today. Better Call Saul is fantastic character work.
If you like discussions on sci-fi things, if you check out some of our movie shows, we cover a lot of sci-fi movies.
We do. In fact, The Thing will begin up shortly after this review does, so we did an influx on that, so you can check out that. But hey, that's us, so thank you once again for watching and listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching TV, guys, and as always, have you got any vanilla?